Testing, testing. Can everybody hear me? Hello, hello, hello. A pleasant Friday afternoon, morning to you all. Hello, am I here? I know Jamie says he liked the silence, but can everybody hear me? Do I sound okay? Do I sound normal? Do I sound like the program is telling me that I'm not on the right microphone, but it appears that there's an input. So hello, everybody. Can you can see me? I know that I know that you can see me now. You can hear me. It's okay. I sound like me. Great. It's exactly what we're looking for today. Holy smokes! I have no idea what happened. Everything's plugged in the way that it normally is. I went to start doing the show. I fixed the echo. The echo's fine. I know what happened with the echo. I tried to do stuff. The echo's fine. Don't worry. Just like I said, small tech issue. We have fixed the echo problem. I muted the backup option. But for whatever reason, when I went to go live and I unmuted the microphone, it wouldn't talk. I couldn't see levels, but here we are. So the echo should be fixed. You should be able to hear me just fine. It should just be one version of me. You should do the whole show with the echo. Please tell me the echo is gone. Please tell me the echo is gone. We've got a lot to get into. We're like 7 minutes late. We've got 32 teams to discuss. We might be here all day. Is the echo still there? Bailey's using the past tense with saying that he liked the echo. See, this is where the live YouTube chat, you've got to help me out. I can't monitor the show in real time. Is the echo gone? It should be gone based on everything that I'm looking at in front of me. But I need confirmation from the chat that the echo is no longer here. No echo, but also no show tweet. That feels like a lie. Oh, I didn't press tweet on the tweet. Never mind. Now there's a show tweet. Echo is gone. Okay. Welcome in, everybody. A happy Friday to you all. A crazy start to a Friday. Maybe a sign of things to come here for the show, as we will have our 1 through 32 official 2023 wide receiver room rankings that I'm sure will make everybody extremely angry. Now, let me make sure I have my list ready to go. I do. It's right here on the other side of the screen. I've got it here in the room. Bailey is obviously wondering who the number one ranked room will be, and it's a big mystery that we will have to get to here at the start of the show. But we've got 1 through 32. We've done all the work. I think I like this list, at least version 1.0 of it, that we're going to start the show with, better than I did the running back room list. But there are a couple of teams I feel like I was lower on than I wanted to be going in, and so we'll see if anybody else can convince me to move teams higher. I have a list of about 4 or 5 teams that I'd like to move potentially, but I'm not sure if we're gonna find a spot for them. So if you guys are ready to go, you guys have been way ready to go. It's been me who's been kind of holding us up today. So I'll press record for the podcast audience, and we can get this show on the road. And welcome in to the Friday edition of the TDN Daily podcast. Chris Schubert back with you here once again on the show. Hope everybody is having a wonderful Friday. We've got another fun one in store for you here today as we continue our positional rankings series. Wide receivers next up for us here today on the show. We've already done quarterbacks. We've already done running backs. If you've missed those shows, you're going to want to go back and listen in the archives, whether it's in the podcast feed or whether it's on YouTube. You're going to want to listen to those where we go 1 through 32 and rank all of the rooms at that position across the National Football League. Today, it is wide receivers. I think we've got a fun list in store today. I like this list a little bit more than I like the first run through that we did with the running back list. I like where we ended up with all of the lists so far, but I think going in, this is the list I feel the most comfortable about how we feel about it in its entirety. And I will say, there's a lot of different ways that you could go about doing this when it comes to ranking these wide receiver rooms. You could put priority on having a true top number one option. You could give a lot of weight to the idea that if you have one of the top 5-10 wide receivers in the game, that distinctly makes your wide receiver room better than other teams. You could also throw in there the idea that if you have a well-rounded room, if you have 3, 4, 5 options at a specific position, at that group, that you are better than teams that maybe only have one top option. There are a lot of things that you could do in order to weigh this out. And I will tell you that there's a heavy weight towards having a deep room. Having multiple options near the top of your roster, near the top of your depth chart, certainly played a factor in the way that my list broke down. So I have my list ready to go. I already see some people talking in the chat about one team, and it is a team that I kind of want to get higher. So the chat is already a little bit ahead of me here because I don't like where they ultimately slotted in. But we will start because we've got 32 of these to go through. We've got a lot of conversation that will probably be had. But where I do not believe that there is a conversation to be had is that the number one wide receiver room going into the 2023 season is that of the Cincinnati Bengals. You just have to start with Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, and T. Higgins, and you can basically end it there. But they've got Andre Yoshivas. They've got Charlie Jones, who they added in the draft, that are going to be really good depth options and probably will be able to have roles on their team. And so for me, that is a slam dunk. You've got the wide receiver one, probably one of the top 5 wide receivers in the game right now, and you have 2 high-end, I think, wide receiver 2s. That makes your room better than everybody else in the National Football League. So to me, that was the easiest one to do, was to put Cincinnati at number 1. The next 31 teams were not as easy as putting them at number 1. I have a surprise at number 2. And if Jamie Eisner is still here in the chat, he will know that I had a lengthy conversation with him about this. I think it was yesterday, where I told him that I was going to put a team number 2 that I think was going to make some people upset. But I felt very strongly about putting this team number 2 because I think they have a number 1. I think they might have 2 number 1 wide receivers. I think they have depth. I think they added a rookie to their group. I think they are 4 wide receivers deep at this position. And so for me, the Los Angeles Chargers needed to be number 2. You've got Mike Williams, you've got Keenan Allen, you've got Quentin Johnston, and I'm sorry, Josh Palmer cannot be forgotten in this as well. He is a very solid option, and when you can go 4 deep in today's passing NFL, in today's offense with Justin Herbert as your quarterback, you can have 4 options like that. Mike Williams, when he's healthy, is great. Keenan Allen, when he's healthy, is great. And going into the 2023 season, health is not a question mark for both of these guys. They are expected to start the season and be ready to go. So you add Quentin Johnson to that mix. Palmer's a really nice option in case one of those guys get hurt. This is where the depth kind of helps you. And so for me, the Los Angeles Chargers needed to be number 2. Then the next couple of teams, I think, are all kind of a chunk, right? I think you can mix these teams around in the order that you put them in, but I don't think anyone's going to argue with these teams being top 10 teams. I have the Minnesota Vikings number 3. Justin Jefferson does a lot of the heavy lifting here. I'm a bigger fan of KJ Osborne than I think most are. Jamie and I kind of have that alike. And then you add Jordan Addison, who's a really nice option that's going to slot in as your wide receiver too. And so, yeah, Justin Jefferson is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting, but it's probably because he's the best receiver in all of football. And so, yes, that makes it where there's a floor for you that you can fall through. So I put Minnesota number 3. The Philadelphia Eagles number 4. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, again, the 2 guys that carry this. The depth's a bit of a question mark. Olamide Zaccheaus is the 3rd receiver there in that offense. That's kind of what brings this down and kind of, I think, stops it from being in the top 3 conversation. But when you have A.J. Brown, when you have Devonta Smith, you basically have 2 number 1s. And so that, again, there's a floor where there's not a whole lot lower that I felt like I could put you without punishing A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith for things that are out of their control. The Seattle Seahawks round out the top 5. You got DK Metcalf. There's a great wide receiver 1. You got Tyler Lockett, a very good wide receiver 2. And you finally added that 3rd wide receiver to make you have a well-rounded trio there in Seattle by adding Jackson Smith and Jigba. And so when you have those 3 guys at the top, that felt like it cracked the top 5 for me. The Miami Dolphins number 6, everybody. Don't worry. I saw a lot of discussion about the Miami Dolphins when we got the list started. They are here at number 6. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Cedric Wilson's their wide receiver 3. Again, you can compare Waddle and Hill to Metcalf and Lockett, and you can say Waddle and Hill are better than Metcalf and Lockett. I think Metcalf is close to Waddle. I think in terms of what they bring to a team, not their skill set, but what they bring to a team, they're pretty close in the impact that they can have. And then I would take JSN over Cedric Wilson, so it's close for me. And so the tiebreaker was that I thought the room for Seattle was a little bit more well-rounded there than Miami. Number 7, I've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Russell Gage, the 3 top options there in Tampa Bay. And this is where I felt that there was a bit of a tier break, where I think some of these teams still have wide receiver 1s and still have some of the best wide receivers in the league, but they also have a very well-rounded group. And I think well-roundedness kind of plays into how the next couple of teams are ranked. I've got the Cleveland Browns at number 8. Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore. Eddie says the Bengals hate is real. The Bengals are number 1, Eddie. How can we have Bengals hate? They're number 1. We've got the Cleveland Browns at number 8. Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore. Again, a well-rounded room. Amari Cooper is a wide receiver 1. Donovan Peoples-Jones off of a good year last year. Elijah Moore is a solid wide receiver 3, who's I think has got the potential to be a pretty high-end wide receiver 2. I put the the Denver Broncos are number 9. Judy Sutton and Patrick is a well-rounded trio there at number 9. Dallas at number 10, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, Michael Gallup. That rounds out the top 10. The Buffalo Bills at number 11. And this was a tough one for me. This is one of those teams that where I ultimately ended up putting them felt like it was a bit of a slight to Stephon Diggs. But when you look at Gabe Davis, they don't really have a lot of depth behind that. They've got Khalil Shakir. Deontay Hardy's in that room as well. Again, Diggs has to do a lot of the heavy lifting, but I don't know if he can do enough of the heavy lifting to put him and that entire room over some more well-rounded groups like Dallas, like Denver, like Cleveland, like Tampa. There's kind of a tough range to find them in. We've got Jacksonville at number 12. Kirk, Ridley, Jones, kind of a bet on Calvin Ridley being okay, but I think if Calvin Ridley is the Calvin Ridley that he was in Atlanta, then the potential for this group to be higher than 12 is very high. And so for me, putting them at 12 felt like a reasonable kind of splitting of the difference of where I think they might end up being this season. The Washington Commanders at 13, Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel. Again, a well-rounded room, 3 wide receivers that can do different things. The San Francisco 49ers at 14, Ayuk, Debo, and Jennings. I saw some people asking about the Niners, where they rank, where the Niners are ranked. We've got them here at 14 again. You have to kind of separate how good they are in that system with how good they are as a wide receiver room. And I still think Debo is an incredible talent, and Brandon Ayuk are incredible talents where if they went elsewhere, they could be successful still. But I don't know if it would be to the level that they are in San Francisco. And so there was kind of a curve that was graded on there. We've got Detroit at 15. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Marvin Jones, Josh Reynolds. Again, another team that is extremely well-rounded. It's got multiple different options. I know they're not going to have Jameson Williams for the first 6 weeks, but Amon-Ra St. Brown's a wide receiver 1. We know what Marvin Jones is able to do. Josh Reynolds was pretty good for them last year. Jameson Williams in year 2, I think, should be able to take a next step when he's out on the field, so I put them at 15. Got the New York Jets at 16, Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, Mecole Hardman, and Corey Davis. It's just a well-rounded room. Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver 1 there. I think there's a tier break between him and the rest of the guys in that group with Lazard, Hartman, and Davis. We've got the Pittsburgh Steelers at 17. Deontay Johnson, Pickens, Robinson, Austin, a pretty good group. Somebody asked about where the Raiders are. They're 18th, the Las Vegas Raiders. Adams, Renfro, and Myers. I will say they are a team that after doing the list, I want to move a little bit. And again, Devontae Adams probably can do a little bit more of the heavy lifting to move them above some teams. But I don't know if that's enough with Renfro and Myers behind him. Renfro's a solid wide receiver 2. Myers is okay. I think there is a ceiling where we can't really put them past some of these other teams, but they are a team that I think we can circle and have a conversation about. The Chicago Bears at 19, DJ Moore, Chase Claypool, and Darnell Mooney. Again, a nice solid trio there. DJ Moore is a wide receiver 1. I don't love Claypool and Mooney as much as some of these other depth options. Some other teams, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 options. We've got the Baltimore Ravens at 20. Rashad Bateman, again, you got injury questions there. Odell Beckham Jr., you got injury questions there. And you got Zay Flowers, who's a rookie. So again, I think the potential of this group is higher than 20. But going into the 2023 season, there's still a lot of question marks that force me to kind of not put them as high as I think their potential could reach. We've got the Indianapolis Colts at 21. Pittman, Pierce, McKenzie, Josh Downs. Again, solid group. A solid group with depth. Some rookie contributors with some high ceilings like Josh Downs. Pittman is a really solid wide receiver 1. Alec Pierce was pretty good last year in his rookie season. It can probably develop into a really nice wide receiver 2. McKenzie sliding into a wide receiver 3 kind of role really kind of makes this group very well-rounded in my opinion. The New Orleans Saints at 22. Chris Olave, Michael Thomas kind of doing the heavy lifting. And Michael Thomas, you can flip a coin if you think he's going to be a positive or a negative for this group. And that's why 22 is kind of where I settled on him. The Kansas City Chiefs at 23. Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Rashee Rice. Again, you got to remove the idea that they play with Patrick Mahomes and just evaluate the talent and look at them as a group. And again, compared to these other groups in terms of talent, this is kind of where I slotted them in. The Houston Texans at 24. Robert Woods, John Mechie, Nico Collins, Xavier Hutchinson, Tank Dell. You got some nice rookies in there. You got some solid options in Woods and Collins. Mechie's got some potential that, we'll see what he looks like in what will be year 1 of his professional career. The Carolina Panthers, for me, at 25. Thielen, Chark, Marshall, Mingo, Chenault. There's a lot of guys that can do different things. Adam Thielen's probably a wide receiver 2 at this stage of his career. DJ Chark, you know what he's got. He got a down-the-field threat there. Terrace Marshall, a guy that I just won't give up on as a player. Mingo Chanel, options to be able to use in that offense. So again, depth really kind of carrying the weight there. The Green Bay Packers at 26. Sorry to my Packer fan friends that are in the chat. They clocked in at 26. I wanted Christian Watson to be able to do some of the heavy lifting, but it wasn't enough to kind of put him and that group past some of these other teams, because after it, it's Dobbs, Reed, DuBose, and Wicks, and there are just too many question marks. I'm able to kind of not criticize a team too much or not penalize a team too much for having one rookie, right? For the Chargers, they have Quentin Johnston, but they also have Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. The Indianapolis Colts, like I have at 21, they've got Josh Downs, but they've also got Pittman, and they've got Alec Pierce entering year 2. You look at the Baltimore Ravens with Zay Flowers. Yes, but they've got Odell Beckham Jr. and Rashad Bateman's a solid player when he's healthy. When you have most of your room being rookie players or second-year players, it's really hard for me to put that group a little bit higher. So 26 is where they slotted in. The New England Patriots at 27, Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, Juju Smith-Schuster. Again, a solid group, not going to wow anybody. Don't think they have a real true wide receiver 1 in that group. That's kind of the criticism there. The Giants at 28. And again, this is a group that you're betting on the depth and you're betting on the potential. Jalen Hyatt, Paris Campbell going to a new place, Wan'Dale Robinson if he can stay healthy, and Sterling Shepard coming off of the injury. So you're betting on the depth there, and you're betting on them kind of reaching their potential. The Los Angeles Rams at 29, the quintessential example of one wide receiver can't make up for the rest of the group. Cooper Kupp. 2 years ago, maybe. But at this stage of Cooper Kupp's career, I just can't have Cooper Kupp lift Van Jefferson, Ben Skoranek, and Puka Nacua that much higher than where they currently sit. The Arizona Cardinals at 30. Again, I think they've got 2 solid top options in Rondell Moore and Marquise Brown. Dortch and Wilson behind him. Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch. You got a rookie. And Greg Dortch is an okay player. And again, they don't have a ton of stuff. The Atlanta Falcons, Drake London, a year 2 player. But after that wide receiver room, Scotty Miller, Mac Hollins, doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence outside of Drake London. Now, they've got Kyle Pitts. And when we do the tight end rankings, having Kyle Pitts is going to help the Atlanta Falcons a bunch. But it doesn't do a whole lot for the Atlanta Falcons wide receiver room. And Jamie puts in the chat, Mac Hollins, do yourself a favor, folks. If you've got time, go listen to today's prospects and props in the podcast feed. It's not out yet. It will be out a little bit later today for those of you listening on YouTube. It's not out yet. If you're listening to this in the TDN Daily podcast feed, prospects and props will be out by the time you hear this. I burned one of my 3 show timeouts because Jamie made a comment about Mac Hollins that the entire show needed to be stopped and derailed because of what he said. So you're going to want to listen to that as well. And then I don't think it's a surprise. I think probably the easiest thing to do after putting Cincinnati at number 1 was putting Tennessee at 32. Treylon Burks, Nick Westbrook-Akina, Kyle Phillips. It's just not a good group. And that's basically the depth right there. Like, those 3 guys are going to have to do all of the heavy lifting, and I just don't think they have it. So that's 1 through 32. We took us 15 minutes to get through 1 through 32. I will now spin the microphone around. Normally, that's what we do here on the Friday Free For All, is I spin the producer's mic, I flip it over to you guys, and you guys tell me what you want to talk about. We're doing something different with these positional ranking series, but I will spin the microphone around to you. What team in their slot do we want to debate first? I will say there wasn't a lot of criticism in the chat in real time, which made me feel like I was close. We may be splitting some hairs and having some conversations, but overall, it feels like there's not a lot of tomatoes being thrown at me in the chat. There's not a lot of hate or criticism for the list. Heldy says, sorry that I was late. Where was Philly? Philly was 4th, Heldy. Hopefully that's okay. They were a top 4 team. The Raiders are too low. Okay, we'll file that one away. Is there any other team that we want to file away and write down to have a conversation about? I just want to we'll go one pass through and see how many teams we want to have a conversation about, and then we can discuss all of those teams. Bailey says this might be unpopular, but Cooper Kupp by himself should put them above some other teams you had in the spots above. Okay, well we'll throw the Rams. We'll put the Rams in there. I'm gonna have a tough time putting them above some teams, but we'll see. We will have the conversation. So we've got the Raiders, we've got the Rams. Are there any other teams that we want to discuss? If we only have 2 teams that we want to discuss as a group, I feel like the Texans are too high. They're 24th. Jamie, please, on my behalf, defend the Texans in the live YouTube chat. I have them 24th. My time to push the Michael Pittman agenda draws near. I have the Colts 21st. I have them as a solid group. Guys, not everybody can be in the top 16. There's only 16 slots. There's 32 teams. It doesn't work this way. Jamie said this is Jamie's thing where he thinks the Texans wide receiver core is better than we think. I feel extremely comfortable having them at 24th. I think that's extremely fair. And I think Jamie would agree. I think Jamie would agree that exactly the kind of range that I have them in is incredibly fair. So let's do this. Let's do this. We have the Las Vegas Raiders. And the conversation that we're having is the weight that we want to give to Davante Adams. How much weight do we want to give to Davante Adams? Do we want to? So here we go. Let's look at the teams directly in front of the Raiders. This is how we're going to do this. In front of the Raiders at 17 are the Steelers. Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, Allen Robinson, and Calvin Austin. Hell yeah, I agree 100% that for most people, Michael Porter, I'm in NBA Finals mode in my head. Michael Pittman Jr. Is underrated. Myers is good though. Chris and Renfro is solid. I agree. I have them like. I think I would take Pittsburgh's group before the Raiders. I've got 4 options. I've got guys that do different things. I think like this is the tough part. I don't think I can take the Raiders above the Steelers. Now the real crux here, the real thing that you can kind of untangle here is if you want to move the 49ers down from 14. Because if you want to move the 49ers down from 14, you can't have arguably the best wide receiver in football with that depth and have them there when you've had other units carried by elite guys higher. But what group did I have? The only group that I'll give to you, Bailey, is carried by a top wide receiver is probably Buffalo. Right? That's the argument that I will give you. But I think we could flip. We might be untangling the whole web here by doing this, but I'm okay with that. I have the 49ers at 14, Heldy. That's where I have them right now. 14. The problem is if you want to move Buffalo down, where do you want to move Buffalo down to? Because I think once you start to move Buffalo down, it gets a little scary. Because I think once you start moving Buffalo down, it's going to go pretty far. They might end up where the Raiders are. They might end up at 18. Because Stephon Diggs is doing way more of the heavy lifting, now that I look at it, than Davante Adams is. You know what? We're going to try something here, folks. We're going to try something. If we do this, how does this feel? I just made a change. You guys can't see this. You guys can't see the change that I made. But I'm going to read it to you. I just flipped Buffalo and Vegas. And again, we can kind of now debate the nuances between there. But I put the Raiders up to 11, and I put the Bills to 18. Does that not kind of feel what I was trying to do? You had the Vikings third. Chris Osborne is a 650-yard guy. That's worse than Renfro probably. And Myers is a good expectation for Addison this year with 800 yards. They can't be that far apart. Oh, they can. They can. I think Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in football. And I think Davante Adams is the 4th or 5th best receiver in football right now. Give or take. Maybe 3rd. Osborne is on the level of Renfro at least. I would agree with that. I think KJ Osborne is very underrated. So I had Minnesota 3rd. And Jefferson and Addison. Yeah, but here's the problem, Bailey. I can't put the Raiders higher than where I can't put the Raiders where I have them. Higher than where I have them. Because like Philly has AJ Brown. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to make one small change. Another small change. We're going to change where we're going to put the Eagles 3. We're going to put the Eagles 3 and the Vikings 4 because I think the Eagles have 2 number 1s in Smith and Brown, where we don't have that with Minnesota. So I'm going to allow the depth to kind of do the talking there. And they have Zacchaeus, and that doesn't really help them, but okay, that's fine. So we got Cincinnati. I'm locking the Chargers in at 2, folks. I'm sorry. You're not convincing me that the Chargers aren't the second best wide receiver group in all football. So we've got them at 2. Heldy, I'm way ahead of you. We've already flipped them. Yep, we've already flipped them. So I'm going to lock the Eagles in at 3. We're locking very early in the show. And now we have Minnesota 4, we have Vegas 11, and we have Buffalo 18. I feel a little bit better about that. And again, it hurts to have Stephon Diggs all the way down there at 18, but he can't carry Gabe Davis and company above some of these other groups in front of him that have more depth, in my opinion. Like Pittsburgh, like the Jets, like Detroit, like Washington, like Jacksonville, teams like that. So many unprovens. So so now here's what I like about the way we've set this up. Because now we have Minnesota 4, Seattle 5. We have Minnesota 4, Seattle 5. And the idea being that Justin Jefferson, Bailey asks, can we discuss Pittsburgh? What depth, really? Sure, we can discuss Pittsburgh. I mean, they've got Deontay Johnson, who's a very good wide receiver. They've got George Pickens, who was fantastic in his rookie season. They've got Allen Robinson, who in the role that they're going to ask him to play is going to be very good. He's a great wide receiver 3, and that's the way he slots in on the depth chart. And they've got Calvin Austin. I mean, okay, Bailey, I hear you. I hear your argument. I don't agree with all of it, but I hear your argument. Where do you want to move them to? But Allen Robinson is cooked as a wide receiver 1 or a wide receiver 2. I don't know if in the role that he's going to be asked to play in Pittsburgh, do we really think that he can't be like competent? Is that really how we feel about this? Because I would agree that if we're discussing him as a okay, then we can discuss moving them. I don't know where you're going to move him down to. Like, you can move him below Buffalo. Maybe you move him below Chicago. Would be just below the Bears. I mean, that's 2 spots. You're really gonna you're getting on my case for 2 spots, chat? Are you kidding me? I mean, at least with the Raiders, we moved them 7 spots, and the people were talking about the Vikings at 3 and the Raiders at 18, which was a 15 spot difference. You're now getting on my case for 2 spots. All right. Well, I'll oblige the chat. I'll oblige with the chat. So we're gonna put them there. I'm gonna put them below the Bears. I still think they're above the Ravens and the Colts. So all right, I feel okay with that. So now we need to lock in we need to go back and lock in the remainder of the top 10. We need to go back and lock in the remainder of the top 10. We got Minnesota at 4, Seattle at 5, the Dolphins at 6. Now there was some stress about where I had the Dolphins. Do we think that Waddle and Hill, I'm asking myself this, Waddle and Hill greater than sign Jefferson and Addison? I mean, this was the exact argument that we used to put Philly above Minnesota, was that they had 2 top wide receivers. Miami's got to move up, even though I don't love what they have behind him. So they're going to have to move up, and they're going to move in front of Seattle too. So they're going to go 4. They're going to go 4. So Miami's going to go 4, and we're going to lock them in. I'm okay with Minnesota over Seattle. I'm okay with that. Lockett's a little bit older. I think Jefferson, I think there's a big enough difference between him and Metcalf. I think Osborne's a solid enough player. Addison and JSN kind of cross each other out as rookies. I'm comfortable Minnesota 5. I think that's good enough as a floor for what Justin Jefferson's able to provide as the top wide receiver in football. So we're going to lock in the top 5. Seattle at 6, Tampa at 7. So you got Metcalf, Lockett, and JSN, Godwin, and Evans. So do you take Godwin and Evans, or do you take Metcalf and Lockett? Do you take Godwin and Evans? No, I'm locking those 2 teams in. Seattle at 6, Tampa at 7. Cleveland at 8, Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Elijah Moore. Denver at 9, Sutton, Judy, and Patrick. I think if you move Denver any higher, you'd be betting on the potential of those guys rather than what they currently are. I'm good. I'm locking it in. I'm locking in 8 and 9. We've got Dallas at 10, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Cooks, and Gallup. And we've got the Raiders at 11 with Adams, Renfro, and Myers. And I'm going to make a change. And I'm going to put the Raiders 10, and I'm going to put the Cowboys 11. And we're going to lock in the top 10 like so. So the top 10 now is Bengals, Chargers, Eagles, Dolphins, Vikings, Seahawks, Bucks, Browns, Broncos, Raiders is the top 10. Now we're outside the top 10. We need to. I'm also locking in Tennessee at 32. I hope that's okay with everybody. We're gonna lock them in at 32. We're gonna work backwards. Then we've got Dallas at 11, Jacksonville at 12, Washington at 13, San Francisco at 14, Detroit at 15. Any major concerns there that we'd like to address? I think Dallas, Jacksonville, and Washington are all kind of similar in that they have a guy that we would kind of consider they're like CeeDee Lamb, Terry McLaurin. San Francisco 14. How much higher do you want him to go? I can't put Ayuk and Debo. Heldy says I would rather have the Cowboys wide receivers than Cleveland's. Heldy, we can just agree to disagree there. And that's fine. But I'm not going to waver off of what I think of Cleveland's team going into this year from a wide receiver perspective. Like Ayuk and Debo are fine, but they're also fine in that system. And so I don't. Al, do they really have two number ones? Would Brandon Ayuk be a number one on a bunch of other teams in the National Football League? I don't think so. I'm overriding the chat. We're locking in 11 through 14. Now, Detroit has come up. Bailey would like to mention Detroit. Here's who's just below Detroit. The Jets, the Bills, but he produces like a number one, Al, but that's the problem. Is you got to separate the system from the player. And that's what I'm trying to do here. And so that's kind of the problem. And Jamie brings up a good point. As a true wide receiver, Brandon Ayuk is better than Deebo Samuel. I agree with it. We were asking, somebody asked about the Lions and who was directly behind them. The Jets are directly behind them. The Bills are directly behind them. The Bears are directly behind them. The Steelers. Those are the next four teams directly behind them. And so you have to ask yourself, would you rather have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Marvin Jones, and Josh Reynolds, or would you rather have Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard, Mecole Hardman, and Corey Davis? I don't know. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he's a number one. So, and Marvin Jones is a very solid 2/3. I'm comfortable with Detroit at 15. And I'm comfortable with the Jets at 16 and the Bills at 17 because I don't feel like I want to drop the Bills any lower than where they are. So we've got Chicago 18, Pittsburgh 19, Baltimore 20, Indy 21, the Saints 22. Oh, well, what do we do? Are we okay with what I did with the Saints, guys? With Olave and Thomas? I felt pretty good about it. I felt like that was a good kind of split the difference of what they could be as a squad. If Thomas is good, they're probably going to be higher because they have two top wide receivers, and they could probably go a little bit higher than 22. But if Thomas is like really, really bad, they're probably towards the bottom because it's like just Olave. And so I kind of split the difference and said, 20, 22 for them. He is healthy, but like, I think this is an acceptable outcome for them. We're going to lock all the way down to 22. We're going to lock them all the way down to 22. I got Kansas City at 23. Again, taking out the Patrick Mahomes side of this. We've got Houston at 24. I know that caused a lot of concern. So I will ask the chat the question this way. We've got Houston. Would you rather Carolina over Houston? Thielen, Chark, Marshall, Mingo, Chenault? Or would you rather have Woods, Mechie, Collins, Hutchinson, and Dell? What group would you rather have? Because I think you're going to take the Texans group over the Packers. And I think you're going to take the Texans group over the Patriots, the Giants. Like, I think that's it. I think you're basically arguing one spot. Heldy goes, it's like the same. They're 24 and 25 on the list. This is why. Because they're the same. It's the same group. When I was doing the list, I was like, okay, these are the group of teams I have left. And I looked at them all and I'm like, these two teams are the same. So, like, you're splitting hairs. We're locking those two teams in. You think the Texans have the third worst group in the league? Third worst group in the league? Bailey, come on, man. Tennessee's locked in. So you're telling me that the Texans are either getting spot 30 or 31. And I'm sorry, give me Houston's group over Arizona's any day of the week. Any day of the week. I've got depth. I've got multiple options. In Arizona, I've got two guys. I'm locking it in. I'm going to go out on a limb with this one. I'm going out on a limb putting Houston 24th on my rankings for the wide receiver groups going into 2023. Big limb I'm stepping out on here. The Packers at 26, the Patriots at 27, the Giants at 28, the Rams at 29, the Cardinals at 30, the Falcons at 31. The Rams are probably the biggest one in this group to have a conversation about if you guys want to move them higher, but I don't know how they can. I mean, maybe they go above. John Mechie hasn't been seen in the NFL. That's fine. Nico Collins is a 2-3. They've got Noah Brown. I mean, but Bailey, it's about it at this stage, at this tier of the group. I have them 24th. At this stage of the rankings, everybody's going to have question marks. That's why they're down this low. And so I think penalizing them twice for being for having question marks is not what we're trying to do here. And so I think when you look at Houston, having depth and having young depth and having 2 rookie wide receivers, having a guy who's a solid wide receiver in Robert Woods, Nico Collins was good last year, John Mechie is an unknown, but I think I would take that over teams like the Falcons and teams like the Giants. Can we not argue the Giants over them? They have better depth. No, I would take the Texans over the Giants right now. There's way too many question marks, and they've got too many people who do the same thing. Jalen Hyatt's a rookie. Sterling Shepard's coming off of an injury. So is Wan'Dale Robinson. I mean, they've got Paris Campbell. That's a nice piece. That's why they're 28th. I'm sorry. I can't get there. Yeah, I agree. I agree with all the names you're mentioning there, Bailey. But I just think but both groups have done nothing. Both groups have really done nothing. Hodgins, 1 season. Campbell, solid player at Indy. Shepard, we're arguing 4 spots. I have the Texans at 28. I have the Giants at 20. I have the Giants at 28. I have the Texans at 24. That's what we're arguing. And I'm sorry, I can't move Houston lower than Carolina, Green Bay. I don't love New England's group. The Texans should be 30. This is just baffling to me. I don't love the Texans group. I don't. But they're 24th. They're still a bottom third of the league. They're actually a bottom 4th of the league wide receiver group. That's what we're arguing right now. I think they're a bottom 4th of the league wide receiver group. And I think their depth and young options are what allow them to go above other teams. I mean, all right. Here's what I'll do. Here's what we'll do. No, because I've got Green Bay with like 4. I got Reed, Dubose, and Wicks that are all young players. What am I supposed to do with that? I mean, maybe Christian Watson does enough. Okay, Bailey. Here's what you've got 25 through 32. Carolina, Green Bay, New England, New York, LA, the Rams, Cardinals, Falcons, Titans. Titans are locked in at 32. You are not convincing me to put any team other than the Titans at 32. And I'm not sure you can convince me of another team to put it at 31 other than the Falcons. So you're basically arguing spot 30. The Giants, Al Bundy. That's the group. If you want to move the Packers up because of Christian Watson, I could hear the argument. But there is so much unproven stuff behind Christian Watson that I can't move them up any higher. The Rams have to be above them. I don't think the Rams have to be above them. I think you're letting Cooper Kupp do much of the work there. This is fun. I did not expect the debate to be at this juncture of the list, down here at the bottom third, but we will continue to have the conversation. I'm going to move the Rams up to this spot. I'm going to move them up to this spot. I'm going to move the Rams up to 26. I'm going to move the Rams up to 26. I'm going to move them out of 30. Okay? I'm going to move them up to 26 if that's okay. I mean, how high do you want how high do you want the Rams to be? How high do you want Cooper Kupp to carry the Rams? Because this isn't Devontae Adams. We've got Ben Skowronek, we've got Van Jefferson, we've got Puka Nacua. And I love Puka Nacua. I think he's going to be the second best wide receiver on the team. But I can't go any higher than where I just put him. I think 26 is probably too high. Like Cooper Kupp can't do to the Rams what Devontae Adams was able to do for the Raiders. He just can't. So I'm moving them 26, and I'm keeping them behind Carolina and Houston as a wide receiver group. I'm just doing it. I'm sorry. It's probably unpopular, but I'm just doing it. The Packers at 27, they have what could potentially be a wide receiver one in Christian Watson. That's what kind of allows them to be higher than these other teams. We're locking it in. We are locking it in. And I'm going to read the 1 through 32, and everybody can be upset at me later. How about that? Here's the list. Cincinnati number 1, the Chargers number 2, the Eagles number 3, the Dolphins 4, Vikings 5, Seahawks 6, Tampa 7, Cleveland 8, Denver 9, the Raiders 10, Cowboys 11, Jags 12, Commanders 13, 49ers 14, Lions 15, Jets 16, Bills 17, Bears 18, Steelers 19, Ravens 20, Colts 21, Saints 22, Chiefs 23, Texans 24, Panthers 25, Rams 26, Packers 27, Patriots 28, Giants 29, Cardinals 30, Falcons 31, and Titans 32. There you have it. The official locked in 2023 wide receiver room rankings that everybody is upset at me about. Not because of what we did in the top half, but what we did with the bottom 7 spots. That's what everybody's upset with. I love it. Nothing better to close out a week than to be debating who has the worst wide receiver groups in the National Football League instead of debating who has the top wide receiver groups in the National Football League. That is going to do it for us here on the podcast edition of the show. Appreciate everybody making this show a part of their day all week long. Please rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. If you've done all those things, please share the show with a friend, family member, coworker, somebody you think would enjoy the show. Join us over on the YouTube side of things, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Draft Network YouTube channel. You got the pre-show, you got the recording of the show, and you've got the post-show where we're going to continue this debate and continue this conversation, so you can hang out over there as well. You can also catch it on demand if you cannot catch us live. But appreciate everybody making this show a part of their day. Have a great weekend. Talk to you all on Monday. John Mechie needs to be very good for that not to be wrong, in my opinion. They're 24th, Bailey. I just don't. I like if you are arguing about like if I had the Texans like 13th or something, like then I could understand. But like, I don't know. I feel pretty good about where I put Houston. I feel just fine with where I ended up with them. The difference between 24th and the 30th is a lot. Sam asks, Chris, why do you think the Texans are good? Like I just right, that's not the leap is not that the Texans are good. It's just that I like their pieces more than I like other teams' pieces. Do you guys want to continue arguing about this list, or is there something else you guys want to talk about? Big Noah Brown fan, Bailey. Are you just gonna troll me all year long about the Texans now? Like every time like they have a game in which nobody does anything, are you just gonna like tweet me the box score? Is that what's gonna happen here? Also, Chris, yes, Heldy, I'm here. All right, lovely. I'm gonna get every Bears box score when they score like 28 points, and then I'm gonna get every Texans box score. Lovely, can't wait. Can you show us your list, please? We'll give it a try. I do a window capture. Hold on here. Because I gotta zoom in for you guys. Okay, I think you can see this now. I think you're gonna be able to see this. This is very zoomed in, and this is very like in real time, very haphazard of me to do. But we'll try it. And I actually don't know if you're gonna be able to hear me when I transition to this screen. Can you guys still hear me on this screen? If everybody can still hear me, this can work. This can work. And what I'll do here, okay, you guys can still hear me? All right, well, how about this? How about this? Put myself right down here. Look, now you guys can see, hear me, you can see the list. Look at this. Look at this. Look what we came up with here today. So, okay. So, here is the list, 1 through 13. Can everybody see the list well enough? I can probably do one of these. That should probably make it a little bit better for you guys. But that's the list. Scroll down to 24. All right, here you go. So that's 1 through 13, and we've got all of them in here. They're all in here in real time. So, got all of them in here. So here you go. Here is we up here is 1 through 13. So here's the rest of the list. You're not missing any teams. Here's 14 through 32. Go ahead. Whatever your heart desires here, folks. There you go, Heldy. There you go. Did you like how I did it without even saying anything? I just put it in there. I just typed it in there. That's very good. Maybe this is how we should do the list from now on. Maybe I should do. I mean, we have the fancy main screen graphic with the background and stuff, but I feel like for the positional rankings, like, and then like I've got the depth charts up here as well that I have, but Chiefs actually feel high here. Nah, 23 felt like reasonable. I felt like if you moved them any lower, you were kind of like being a little bit too critical. But maybe. But like, I don't know. Like, I would take that group over Houston. Right. Like, and that's the thing, Bailey, is that if we do that, then we move Houston a little higher. And that kind of felt, I didn't love that. 24 felt like the ceiling for me for Houston. And so I put them at their ceiling. But like, that felt like I didn't want to move. I didn't want to move Houston down much lower. Texans to the top 10, to be honest. Don't do this, guys. Don't do this. So, guys, I'm doing a fantasy draft. It's with with TDN people, and we're doing our rookie draft right now. And I made 2 picks so far. I had the 4th overall pick in both rounds. I took Jahmyr Gibbs in round 1, and I took Josh Downs in round 2. What do we think? How do we think I did? We think that's good? Feels pretty good. Is it super flex? I think so. Look at my team. Yeah. I've got 3 flex spots and a super flex with a quarterback. Yeah, I mean, like, here's my team right now. I have, this is going to shock you, but my quarterbacks are, my 2 quarterbacks currently are Derek Carr and Brock Purdy. That's going to shock you that those are my 2 quarterbacks. Specifically Derek Carr. My running backs are Nick Chubb. I've got Jeff Wilson. I've got Tony Pollard. I've got Deonta Foreman. I've got Samaje Perine. I've got Cam Akers, Kenny Gainwell. I've got Javonte Williams, Michael Carter, Isaiah Spiller. That's it at running back. So going into next season, my 2 star running backs are going to be Nick Chubb and Tony Pollard, more than likely. Those will be my 2 top backs. And then I'll have, I'm kind of doing it right now while we're on the show. I will have Javonte Williams in there. I'll have Jahmyr Gibbs in there as well. I have Jameson Williams on my injured reserve right now because he's suspended, so he'll come back at some point. But for wide receivers, I have Jalen Waddle. I have Kenny Galladay. We're going to drop him. Totally forgot I had him on this team. We're going to get him out of there. But I got Jalen Waddle. I've got Hunter Renfrow, who will slide into one of my starting spots. I've got my tight ends are Dalton Schultz, CJ Uzoma, and Tyler Conklin. We've got some decent options. Gibbs is value at 4. I am not high on Downs due to AR being a running QB who checks the ball down. I think they put Downs in the slot in Indy. Well, yeah. I mean, listen, none of the quarterbacks were on the board when I picked with this pick. Al is still arguing the 49ers spot on the list. But they're going to stay there. Yeah, quarterback and offensive system doesn't really factor in. I mean, obviously their numbers are a byproduct of the system that they're in, so it kind of plays in. But like I'm trying to just evaluate the talent of the wide receivers. So we're doing our draft right now. Let's see who's the players still on the board right now. And I don't pick for a while, but players still on the board right now. The top players still on the board right now: Jalen Hyatt, Sam Laporta, Hendon Hooker, Tajay Spears, Roshan Johnson, Marvin Mims, Zach Evans, Keyshawn Boutte, Cedric Tillman. So I'm probably going to try to target. Hold on, is Jamie picked yet? No, Jamie's on the clock coming up pretty soon here. So I don't really want to. Did he already take? He took Dalton Kincaid. I'm a little nervous about talking about my strategy because I feel like Jamie will steal my players. So I don't feel comfortable sharing my information with friends right now because he's in here and he's gonna steal what I'm gonna say. So steal my picks. But yeah, those are the players that are still on the board. So I think don't hold me to this. Don't hold me to this. But I think we're gonna have a TDN Daily fantasy league this year. I think, and if we can get enough people, what I would love to do is if we could get enough people to do 2 leagues, we will do promotion and relegation. So that's I don't want to get too excited. I don't want to put the cart in front of the horse here. But if we can get enough to fill 2, I would say minimum 10-team leagues, then we will do promotion and relegation amongst the two leagues. So you can't tank for a good pick because you'll get relegated. You'll get knocked out. Yeah, I mean, listen, the next pick when we have the clock on the pick is 12 hours per pick. I don't pick for a while. I honestly think, truly, when we do Monday's show, I still won't be on the clock. Like, I don't think we'll make it to my next pick by the time TDN Daily starts on Monday. So I think we can have a conversation. Jamie will definitely pick. Jamie's up in 3 picks. Jamie will pick before Monday for sure. But I probably will not be back on the clock because there's like a bunch of people. There's like 5 picks after Jamie before it gets to me. So depending on how it plays out, I'll share that with you in the pre-show on Monday. All right, folks, appreciate it. Appreciate everybody being here on a Friday. Appreciate everybody chiming in, being a part of the conversation. I say this all the time, but I will continue to say it. This show is always more fun when you guys are in the mix, bantering, debating. We're having arguments. We're having these conversations. It always makes me better. It makes the conversation better, and it makes this list more fun. So I greatly appreciate it, everybody. Appreciate everybody making this show a part of their day. Hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. Enjoy whatever you're doing on a weekend, and I will talk to you all on Monday.